Okay, part 2. Find the discriminant of each quadratic equation, then state the number and types of solutions. Now remember, the discriminant is the part of the quadratic formula that is inside this square root. So it's b squared minus 4ac. That's the discriminant. And remember that if you get a negative number, then you have no real solutions. If we put in values and we get 0, we'll have one solution. And if we put in our values for A, B, and C and we get a positive number, there will be 2 solutions. So that's kind of hard to see, but I'll zoom in there for a second if you need to write that down. So for number 19, first of all, I'm going to find my A, B, and C values. A equals -1, B equals -4, and C equals -4. A, B, and C. B squared would be -4 squared minus 4 times A is -1 and C is -4. Well, -4 squared is 16. I have a minus, minus, minus. So I have -4 times, so I'm going to get a minus. And 4 times 1 times 4 is 16. So 16 minus 16 equals 0. So then I have one solution. That means we'll have one solution. If we apply the quadratic equation, we'll only get one solution. Or if you factor, if it can be factored. Okay, now you can do number 20. Find your A, B, and C values and put them into the discriminant and see what value you get out, a negative number, a 0, or a positive. Okay, the second side, I'm going to continue to use the discriminant here to see how many solutions there are. Remember, it's b squared minus 4ac. A will equal -4. B equals -3, C equals -3. So -3 squared minus 4 times -4 times -3. -3 squared is 9. I have minus, 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 so it's going to be minus 16 times 3. 16 times 3 is 48. This is going to be a negative number, -39. So because it's negative, we're going to have no real solutions. When your value comes out to be a negative number, you'll have no real solutions. Then you can try number 22. And these are not exact, so you might get something else. You're not going to get no real solutions for this. Use your A, B, and C and put it into the discriminant and see what you get. Number 23. Yes, hold on a second. Okay, number 23. 6r squared plus r minus 5 equals 0. My A value is going to be 6. It's the number in front of the squared. B equals 1 and C equals -5. So B squared is 1 squared minus 4 times 6 times -5. So that's 1. And that's minus times a minus, so it's plus. 20 times 6 is, or 24 times 5, whichever is 120. This is a very big positive number, which is nice because that tells us that there's 2 solutions. And now try this one using your A, B, and C value. Just choose the A in front of the squared, B is in front of the linear, and -3. So I'll just write that. A is equal to -3, B is equal to -4, C is equal to -3. Okay, simplifying some radicals. Some more practice. Remember, breaking them down into their prime factors first. 64 is 8 times 8. Oh, wait a minute. I can take out one of those pairs right off the bat. It's a perfect square. So that's equal to 8. The square root of 36? Well, I'll let you figure that one out. The square root of 20, I can break that down. It's not a perfect square, so I'll break it down into 2 times 10, and then this can be 2 times 5. Those are the prime factors. It can't be broken down any further. I have a pair of 2's. I'll take that out, and what's left inside is the square root of 5. Number 29. I'm going to break this down into its prime factors. 9 times 5. There's a perfect square. Remember, we've got to get the perfect square out. That's 3 times 3. So we'll take out the square root of 3 times 3 is 3, and we're left with the square root of 5 on the inside. Now number 31, oh, this square root of 16 is 4. So I have negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12. And number 33, I'm going to break this down into its prime factors. 9 times 5, well, 3 times 3 times 5. There's the perfect square. So I end up with 5, that stays on the outside, times, well, I'm going to take out one of these 3's and put it on the outside. So 5 times a 3 times the square root of what's left, which is 5. So my final answer is 15 rad 5. Number 35, I'm going to break 80 down into its prime factors. I'll try 4 and 20. There's a perfect square, so that's going to come out, the square root of that. This is 4 times 5, and this is 2 times 2. So we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. Okay, on the outside we already have a 4. So 4 times, I'm going to take out one of the 2's. The square root of those 2 will give me 1. And I'll take out the square root of this pair, and that's going to be 2. So it's 4 times 2 times 2 times what's left is the square root of 5. So 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16. That's 16 rad 5. And there is the simplified version of 4 times the square root of 80. The last section is solving each equation by taking the square root of both sides. These are square root equations. So when we take the square root of both sides, we're going to have to put plus or minus on the right-hand side. So number 37. If we take the square root of both sides, we get x on the left-hand side and plus or minus 7. That's a perfect square. Plus or minus 7 on the right, and that one's done. For 39, if we take the square root of both sides, we get x minus 3 on the left and plus or minus the square root of 7 on the right. This is not a perfect square. It's going to have to stay in the radical, and it can't even be simplified. So that's it, plus or minus the square root of 7. Now to solve for x, I'll add 3 to both sides. So x equals, and I like to put the number first, 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. In other words, I added 3. I'll rewrite this as plus or minus 7. I added 3 to it to solve for x. But I like to write the positive 3 in front, and that's what I did. And there's the solution for number 39. And number 41, x, if I take the square root of both sides, x minus 6 equals plus or minus 2. This is a perfect square. You've got plus or minus. So I have two cases. When x minus 6 equals positive 2, then x is going to equal 8. When x minus 6 equals negative 2, then x is going to equal, see, adding 4, is it going to equal 2? So those are my two solutions for number 41. So you go ahead and practice the square root property on the rest of these equations, and good luck with all your simplifying. Good practicing. We're going to have a quiz tomorrow on the discriminant and on simplifying radicals, and factoring is always going to be an important skill that you have to use. It's better to do that, it's better to factor than use the quadratic if you can. It's quicker. Have a great afternoon, and I will hopefully see you on Tuesday.